for staying with us. In our first story, President Akufo-Addo has called on world leaders to be courageous enough to undertake massive reforms of the United Nations in order to address imbalances in the global political system. Nana Akufo-Addo says the UN cannot reasonably purport to preach peace and fairness across the world when there are traces of unfairness and imbalances in the UN bodies. Speaking at the 72nd United Nations General Assembly meeting currently underway in New York, the president said the time is long overdue to correct the imbalances in the UN systems and give African countries better representations on the UN Security Council.
We want to build a Ghana that will enable our people to deal with the rest of the world on an equal basis. I say nothing new when I draw attention to the urgent need to reform this organization. It has been talked about and scheduled for a long time, but somehow we've never found the courage and the will to reform the United Nations. Ghana supports the process of UN reform, especially of the UN Security Council, as set out in Africa's common position on UN reform, based on the Eswatini Consensus. The time is long overdue to correct the long-standing injustice that the current structure and composition of the UN Security Council represent for the nations of Africa. We cannot continue to preach democracy and fairness around the world. We cannot insist on peace and justice around the world when our global organization is not seen by the majority of its members as having a structure that is just and fair. It is indeed seen by many as helping to perpetuate an unfair world order. This organization provides the best vehicle for the world to manage its many varied problems, and we would undermine its credibility and fail in our duty if we do not reform the United Nations. We dare not let ourselves and future generations down. The time for reform has come.
Now, on the issue of aid, President Akufo-Addo said he does not disclaim aid, but would want Africans to discard a mindset of dependency and living on handouts.
We do not want to be a scar on anybody's conscience. We want to build an economy that is not dependent on charity and handouts. Long and bitter experience has taught us that no matter how generous the charity, we would remain poor. We want to build a Ghana which looks to the use of its own resources and their proper management as the way to engineer social and economic growth in our country. We want to build an economy that looks past commodities to position our country in the global marketplace. We are not disclaiming aid, but we do want to discard a mindset of dependency and living on handouts. We want to build a Ghana beyond aid. It is an easier platform on which to build sustainable relationships.
He had rather strong words on Africa coming of age and the need to hold its rightful place on the world stage. President Akufo-Addo noted Ghana and the rest of Africa recognize that making sustainable economic progress requires a stable democratic system of governance.
We believe it is time Africa comes of age and holds its rightful place on the world stage. This Africa will be neither a pawn nor a victim. This Africa will be honest to itself and to the world, and this Africa will shed its cloak of poverty and become prosperous. We are any illusions about the hard work that it will take to achieve our stated goals, but we are not afraid of hard work. We know that a critical ingredient in making sustainable economic progress is to ensure a stable democratic system of governance. I believe we're making this progress in Ghana. After years of political turmoil and the accompanying economic chaos, a consensus has emerged in our Fourth Republic. We have had political stability for the last 25 years under a multi-party democracy where regular elections are now an accepted feature of our governance.
Well, the president also seized the opportunity to update the UN General Assembly of his flagship education policy, the Free SHS, which he describes as a guarantee for secondary education for all Ghanaian children.
We've just started the Free Senior High School program, which aims to guarantee secondary education for all of Ghana's children. This program will ensure that all our children will be educated to at least secondary level, and money, or the lack of it, will no longer mean a denial of education. This has already led to an increase of over 90,000 children who have entered secondary school this academic year, who would otherwise have dropped out at this stage. SDG 4, which aims at ensuring inclusive and equitable quality education and promoting lifelong learning opportunities for all, will be within our reach by the target date.
Well, speaking of Free SHS, some senior high school head teachers in the Volta region are praising the Akufo-Addo-led government on the implementation of its flagship Free SHS policy. The heads indicated that the policy has not only brought relief to parents who struggle to foot the admission fees of their children, but also has augmented management of the various schools. They, however, appeal to government to swiftly solve the challenge of inadequate infrastructure at the various SHSs. The heads made this known during a tour by the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, John Peter Amewu, of some schools in the Volta region.
The Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, John Peter Amewu, and his team visited the Mauko Evangelical Presbyterian Girls Senior High School in Ho, where the registration process was smoothly ongoing. The school's authority, however, lamented on limited infrastructure space. They called for urgent completion of an abandoned 200-bed dormitory block, a library facility, and a science department block to support the large intake. The situation was not different at the Ola Senior High School, where the school was allocated about 650 students. The headmistress, Benedicta Fesi, indicated that due to the unavailability of classrooms, they are making do with an uncompleted 12-unit classroom block to house the first-year students. She therefore pleaded for the urgent completion of the 12-unit classroom block and construction of a 200-bed dormitory facility to help increase intake of boarding students.
Most of the students who are coming from outside the region, you see, so that makes it very difficult. The parents don't know anybody in town, they don't know the town, and so getting accommodation for their wards in town is it's a problem.
The headmaster of Hohoi Evangelical Presbyterian Senior High School, Dr. Cephas Edusei, indicated that the school has enough infrastructure to accommodate the 708 first-year students allocated to the school. He, however, stated that some classes are being held on the top floor of an uncompleted 12-unit classroom block, while an 18-unit classroom block promised by the late President Mills is under construction.
I spoke to the parents to always pray for Nanado and his team of ministers for long life. In fact, this program is a program for Ghana. This alone, if Nanado didn't do anything for Ghana alone, is enough for Ghanaians.
Thank you.
It's enough.
Thank you.
Because secondary education is very expensive.
Yeah.
And for the government to be bold to take up this whole issue as a policy for Ghana, my brother, is unheard of.
Mr. Amewu and his team moved to St. Mary's Senior High School in Lolobi, where construction of a dormitory facility and assembly hall have been stalled, compelling the school to convert a 5-unit classroom block into dorms to accommodate the first-year students. The assistant headmaster of the school, Anthony Kondobre, believes the introduction of free SHS is a laudable initiative but must be complemented with the provision of adequate infrastructure.
We used to cook a bowl of bamboo in a day, and even finding difficulty in even selling all, can now sell 3 bowls within a very short time.
Okay, because the population is there. Yeah.
And these carpenters are making chop boxes, even both fruit sellers. So Nana has touched many lives.
This first-year student, Akwa Eric, lamented he wouldn't have had the opportunity to access second-cycle education if not for the free SHS policy. The Minister of Lands and Natural Resources, John Peter Amewu, after the tour, assured of the sustainability of the free SHS policy, adding government is committed to addressing the infrastructure challenges. He also advised head teachers to support government towards the full realization of the policy's objectives. Fred Kwame Asari's report from the Volta region.
Let's stay a while longer on free SHS because educationist Professor Joshua Alabi has hailed the free SHS policy, asking Ghanaians to support it, while his position seems to be in sharp contrast to his party's, the NDC's, view recently. Speaking to JoyNews on the sidelines of the NDC's Unity Walk in Accra, Professor Alabi said the policy should not be condemned.
Because you all work collectively to consolidate it. It is good for our children. It is good for all of us. So what we have to do is to discuss it passionately to see how best we can sustain it in the interest of our people, right? So a policy which is geared towards a social intervention policy is a good policy. But then we should work hard to sustain it. And I also believe strongly that when we come back, we will polish this very well and make sure that it's more sustainable.
You're watching Joy News Prime. We're taking a break, but still ahead, residents of Wager struggle to get potable water few months after parts of the community were almost submerged following the spillage of excess water from the hydro dam.
But now will be pipe.
If we get up at 3 a.m. to go hunt for the water till 6 before we get home. The people have taken advantage and have inflated their price from 40 pesos to 1 cedi.
We have details after this break. You're welcome back. Now, residents of Wager, a community in the Ga South municipality, are struggling to get access to potable water. You'd recall the community some few months ago was almost submerged following the spillage of excess water from the hydro dam there. Well, now the area has been hit by water shortage, and residents say they were not informed prior to the situation. While residents rely on the use of sachet water to bath, others resort to the Wager River for survival. JoyNews' Forgive America visited the community and has come through with the following report.
One of the small municipalities in the Greater Accra community, I'm talking about Wager, the community that was hit by the spillage of the overflow of the Wager Dam some 3 months ago. Today, few months down the lane, the same community has been hit by water shortage, and the communities within this environment are complaining relentlessly about this condition. I will be speaking to some of the people within the community just to give me an understanding of how this water shortage affects their lives. Some people have told me that they fetch water from this river behind me. Others too have told me that there is this trench that has been dug in the middle of the road, and then that is where the construction is taking place. Residents are not aware when they're going to finish for them to have access to clean water. For how long now is Emma?
About 3 days.
For the past 3 days, we have not had water. Not only this area, but it extends to STC. We have no idea why the water is not flowing. Sometimes they close it, but it does not take long for them to open it. If you don't store water, there is none to use, unless you resort to pure water to drink and bath, or better still, resort to the river behind us to boil for drinking and bathing. We have no idea why the water is not flowing. No one has communicated anything to us.
ye be pipe na ye den ama yen nso ye ntehwe
ye kwatna obi pipe no be.
If we get up at 3 a.m. to go hunt for the water till 6 before we get home. If people have taken advantage and have inflated their price from 40 pesos to 1 cedi, we pleading with you to come to our aid.
We buy pure water to bath. That's what we have to do. It's very serious. You know, most time it's 1, 2, 3 days, but this is for about 10 days now. So many people used to get water from the Weja River, but we buy pure water.
100 meters away from here, at most there should be a sign indicating that there is a ditch here. A travel through this road has shown no sign, so drivers will have to drive close with caution, and then before they get here, you don't know what is going to happen. An eyewitness was just narrating an incident to me about a policeman who nearly got himself into the ditch.
They have dug a ditch here at the middle of Weja and Oblogo Road. One evening, a police dispatch rider fell in the ditch. We helped him out. Most often, cars also get stuck in the ditch. The water company have to cover this before another disaster hits us.
They open this hole and they're supposed to do this job within a day. But this job, it has been there for about 2 weeks now. And we ourselves, we don't have water in the house for about 2 weeks now. So I think these people, they can be more effective because this hole has been there for about a year, almost more than a year now. When they do it, they don't even fill the hole. They leave it and they came again to open the hole again, just to leave it again for 2 weeks now. So I don't understand what they are doing. They don't have nobody to check on them. So they can get away with anything. They did the same over here, the same at Weja Junction. Here now they have one hole too also there. It's open. So we are not having water for like 10 days now.
And have you had an incident where someone has fallen in the ditch?
Yes. I saw a motorbike, a policeman. He fall inside with his motorbike. He fall in the pitch around 12 o'clock in the night. He say he doesn't know because there is no any sign. When the car was coming, he just went straight in the hole. So, and most time cars have been having accidents here because me, I live here, most time cars have been, because how they make this hole is priority for only the cars to come from this side. So when the cars come from Weja, sometimes, they are speeding. So nobody used to give each other way. Then most of the time, accidents used to occur over here.
Now, to the northern region now, where 10 communities in the Saboba district have been declared open defecation-free communities following their ability to build household toilets in all of their homes. The issue of open defecation in the northern region is a matter of concern, with the region currently placing 9th in the country with just 23% regional coverage. The communities attained open defecation-free status after they passed the district assessment and the Regional Interagency Coordinating Committee on Sanitation Vetting. Correspondent Martina Bugri reports.
With technical expertise from World Vision, 12 communities were triggered for the ODF status, but 2 failed to qualify. Speaking at a deba organized by World Vision to celebrate the 10 communities who qualified, Joseph Yao Fan Kibi, who read a speech on behalf of the Northern Regional Operations Manager, said sanitation is critical to the well-being of these communities.
In the area of wash, the program has provided 81 boreholes and 7 mechanized water systems from 2014 to date in all 45 communities in the district. In order to translate access to water from improved sources to child well-being, improved sanitation is critical at all levels. In light of that, World Vision Ghana is implementing the Government of Ghana's rural sanitation model and strategy with focus on the community-led total sanitation. 10 out of the 12 communities have achieved open defecation-free status. This achievement means that vulnerable children and their families will now have access to safe environment and enjoy life in all its fullness.
Mr. Fankibe said the low water table in the district has stifled World Vision's ability to offer more communities with safe water.
We discovered that the low water table at the Sabeba district has stifled efforts to provide some communities with boreholes. For instance, several attempts to have boreholes drilled at Peru East has proven futile so far. Some communities to fail to mobilize enough revenue to maintain existing facilities that World Vision provided for them. And as a result, most of them are still dysfunctional and are not serving the purpose for which World Vision commissioned them.
He called on government and other partners to explore other options in the area of water provision. District Chief Executive for Saboba, Benjirini George, said the vision of the district is to meet the ODF status by 2019.
We have NGOs like World Vision that are helping us in that direction. We also have RIG. We also have RIG, which is also into sanitation. And as part of their projects, they are encouraging and assisting people to put up their personal latrines. And so because of that, we have factored it into our medium-term development plan. And as part of the sanitation is key in our agenda to make sure that we give district common fund allocation to sanitation that will help us achieve this.
This is JoyNews Prime, and still ahead, former Minister of Education and member of the National Democratic Congress, Lee Okran, says the NDC will restore 21st September as Founders' Day should the governing MPP change the day to 4th August.
You change it and go back to the status quo. There is always a founder, one person. There is one father for a child. There can be 3, 4 fathers. One.
Details of that story and business coming right up after the break.
Hello, good evening to you. Welcome to Business. Now, several exhibitors are offering a wide range of locally made products at highly affordable prices at this year's edition of the Joy Prime Made in Ghana Fair, which opened on Thursday at the Junction Mall here in Accra. The fair forms part of Multimedia's resolve to promote made in Ghana goods and boost the local manufacturing sector. Charles Aite has come through with this report.
We have been engaging with several of the patrons here and, of course, exhibitors, tens of them, who have been sharing with us the experiences of engaging in businesses in the Made in Ghana terrain. As you can see, lovely beads here at one of the exhibitors' ends, but they have very stark challenges, issues related to marketing, issues related to funding, issues related to the need for government, not, selling their goods beyond the shores of the country. We shall be engaging some of such exhibitors who say that it's high time government really intensifies its own resolve in boosting the Made in Ghana, bid here in the country. The Made in Ghana Fair comes with promoting the appetite for locally produced goods in the country. Various exhibitors brought in several products to show as participants trooped in their numbers to pick up for themselves everything made in Ghana. Some exhibitors who spoke to Joy Business expressed how satisfied they are about this year's event. They are urging government to do more in promoting the interest of made in Ghana products.
It has really helped me because it has made people know my products more and they are interested in it, and some are urging everything after this program. Yeah. What I actually want government to do for traders who deal in made in Ghana goods is to publicize whatsoever they are doing for us, because I've heard that government is funding people who are doing their own business. So government should create more publicity about it so people can send their proposals and CVs so the government can look through it and then help such people who are coming up with their own products.
The Made in Ghana Fair is here with us. What particular good has it done for you as someone who sells made in Ghana products?
It serves as a platform, a major platform for advertisement. The good thing about it is it's on radio, it's on air. So even people who are not aware of it, they come through. Sometimes the customers come and they say, oh, we're not aware of it, but we heard on it on radio. Or we saw the adverts on Facebook or on Instagram, so we came by. It's a major platform, and it's promoting made in Ghana goods. So it's taking our heritage outside as well.
We have the corn drink, locally called asana or ekudemi. It is very good for the digestive system. And after a hot walk on the sun, a very long walk on the sun, even when you go to the market, you just take a little sip of asana and then you cool down your body. It's very good. Thank you.
Help us understand how business has been like selling asana in Ghana, because this is going to be competing with so many of the beverages that we have on the market, both local and foreign.
Well, I can say the others nowadays have been preserved with some other preservatives, which is not so good for the body system. But this one is very locally made out of corn without preservative. It is very good for the body.
They should encourage more Ghanaian products. I mean, in terms of furniture, in terms of wall hangings, in terms of dressing and everything, the government should encourage so that when you enter into a Ghanaian or Ghanaian institution, from furniture to clothing to wall hanging, everything must be Ghanaian.
Yeah, you know, when it comes to the international markets, quality and finishing, yeah, is very important. So I think, as I said earlier on, if maybe we should introduce new technology, yeah, in how to make the kente, and with how the government have to help us, maybe with the one factory, one district, one factory, yeah. So we can set up a factory maybe at Bonre or any of the towns that with the kente, yeah. Then we'll give the guys maybe education.
Other patrons also expressed how relevant the fair has been so far.
I think it's a wonderful day, actually, and I do appreciate everything around it. I love the environment, and actually, you can see me, I'm a Rasta man, and Africa made, specifically Ghana. So anything made in Ghana, I'm in for. So I come, you can see I'm start purchasing my stuffs. I'm just happy for the day.
People say that made in Ghana stuffs are very expensive and that even the quality is an issue. What do you have to say about that?
I think the people within the country itself don't know the use of made in Ghana, but people outside really cherish it and they respect it a lot. And you have any made in Ghana products outside, they do respect it. So when you come Ghana, we understand and we like it, and trust me, I think it's the best.
Made in Ghana goods and goods made outside Ghana, which ones do you like best?
Oh, as for me, I like made in Ghana goods because I'm more in Ghana. And made in Ghana goods, they are quality. And if you buy it, it lasts. So as for me, I prefer made in Ghana goods.
You know, there are also concerns about the fact that made in Ghana goods are very expensive. Do you agree?
Oh no, as for me, I don't agree. Because, see, we Ghanaians, we prefer foreigner goods, which is not good. It sometimes leads us to sickness. But if you buy made in Ghana goods, it's good.
When you walked in here, what were your first impressions?
Well, I think it has exposed me to a lot of products hitherto I didn't know existed on the market. In fact, I came here to look for somebody, but upon entering, I've seen that we really have a lot of things that are not displayed on the ordinary market. So I think you should be running more of this first so that it will expose us to things we didn't know about. I think we have very beautiful things here compared to things that are brought from outside. I think things here are also certified before they are brought on the market because it's run by you. I know Joy FM, you wouldn't run any program that products are substandard. So I know that goods here are very up to standard. So I think you should be doing more of this promotions or programs so that most of us will patronize made in Ghana goods.
All right, but speaking of patronizing made in Ghana goods, are there specific concerns about made in Ghana goods that you wish sellers and, you know, people who engage in, you know, the making of such things consider?
Yeah, like the fabrics, the jewelry, you can see the beads here, very, very beautiful. And then we have soap, that we know that at least the products are not very harsh, or the chemicals in it are not very harsh. They are good for our body. You can see slippers, very beautiful and colorful. So I think we should patronize them.
The Made in Ghana Fair is expected to end on Sunday, the 24th of September.
So you pass by the Junction Mall at Nungwa here in Accra to get yourself or to have a feel of the ingenuity of the Ghanaian manufacturer. Away from this, the Energy Ministry says it has instituted the necessary measures to avoid any disruptions in power supply during the planned Jubilee shutdown. Managers of the country's biggest oil field are set to shut down operations in that area for about 12 weeks. However, there are fears the country could get back into a serious power crisis because of this development. But Energy Minister William Urekwe-Edu says there is no cause for alarm. He explains to Joy Business what has been done in the area to improve power generation.
Currently, we do have enough generation. Our problem hitherto was generation and money to acquire the fuel that was required to power the generators. Through prudent management, some aspect of good luck, and the vision of the President, and indeed the Honorable Minister Boakye Jako, we now have, we sleep better, put it that way, that the generation is not too much of a problem. And indeed, we have too much generation, and we are trying to rationalize some of the agreements by cancelling some outright and rescheduling some backwards. Otherwise, we will end up with too much power stations that is sitting idle, but we will be paying capacity charge for no receiving of power.
Now, when Kwame Nkrumah was overthrown in 1966, part of the campaign to wipe out his memory was the burning of his books and other literature about him. 51 years after the overthrow, the Kwame Nkrumah Pan-African Center returned to the University of Ghana, one of the places his books were burned, to relaunch his book, The Dark Days in Ghana. Manasseh Azuriah-Winnie was at the event, which was to commemorate Nkrumah's birthday, and reports.
The Kwame Nkrumah Institute of African Studies at the University of Ghana was today filled with men and women of different ages and statuses in society. They were united by the memory of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, the man who has brought much division and controversy in the political landscape in recent weeks. The executive director of the Kwame Nkrumah Pan-African Center, Dr. Danana Tohma, told the gathering that what Nkrumah stood for is still as relevant today as it was 51 years ago.
He is credited as the most published president in the world, with 21 books and pamphlets to his name, the first president and the founder of the Republic of Ghana. It is against this backdrop that the Kwame Nkrumah Pan-African Center is launching the Kwame Nkrumah Dialogue Series with the objective of engaging scholars, policymakers, young people in particular, and all people of African descent, wherever they may be, on the ideas and policies of Osajifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah.
Unlike a typical Nkrumah event, this gathering was dominated by young people, students of some tertiary institutions.
He was a socialist, and as a socialist, he wanted the state to be in charge of the distribution of the state resources. And then I know he was the one who built UCC, University of Cape Coast, and then Kwame Nkrumah Science and Technology University. Yeah.
Kwame Nkrumah stood for Pan-Africanism. He's a grandpapa for Pan-Africanism. Kwame Nkrumah talked African. He had a vision for Africa. Apart from our problems, being a part of National Liberation Council's things that he did at the time when after Nkrumah was overthrown, Nkrumah looked at Ghana being economically independent. So he brought up certain factories, research centers, things that are going to help us survive on our own without any European or outside influence. So Nkrumah's things that he looked for, the things that he envisioned for Africa and Ghana, but if was maintained, it could have helped all of us.
The main highlight of today's event was the launch of the African edition of Kwame Nkrumah's book, Dark Days in Ghana, a book he wrote after his overthrow. Kwame Nkrumah's daughter, Samia Yaba Nkrumah, said the debate should move from Nkrumah's personality to what he stood for.
We all know where we stand. We all know and we believe that Osajifo Kwame Nkrumah is the founder of the new nation, Ghana. But the last thing I think he would have wanted, the last thing Osajifo would have wanted is for us, instead of delving into his policies, his ideas, and his philosophy, to be arguing amongst ourselves about who founded this new nation. The historical records are there for all to see and read.
She wants the youth to read about Nkrumah in order to have a meaningful debate on his legacy and ideology.
The hundreds of industries, the Akosombo Dam, Tama Township and the harbour, Ghana joining the Nana Line movement, spearheading it, the OAU, Ghana spearheading our march towards the Union of African States. We all know what founded that new nation. It's not a man, it's a philosophy and an ideology.
Some young people held a dialogue to discuss Nkrumah's ideas in today's Ghana. For Joy News, Manasseh Azore Arena reporting.
Now, former Minister of Education and a member of the National Democratic Congress, Lee Okran, says the NDC will restore 21st of September back to Founders' Day should the governing MPP change the day to 4th August. His comments follow the proposal by President Akufo-Addo to move Founders' Day from 21st September, which is the date of birth of Ghana's first president, to August 4, when the UGCC was formed. Speaking at the 108th anniversary celebration of Kwame Nkrumah at the CPP headquarters in Accra, Lee Okran stressed the need to maintain Kwame Nkrumah as the founder of Ghana.
You change it and go back to the status quo. There is always a founder, one person. There is one father for a child. There can be 3, 4 fathers. One. And I mean, why are people worrying themselves trying to distort what has been there? When I was in school, as middle school boy, that was National Founders Day, 21st September. Read back, you will see, go into history. That was already Founders Day. It was abolished after CCC school. So NDC sent it back to those days. We just restored it. If people want to organize Chebi Day, they can do it, or any other day. So far as we are concerned, there is one founder. So many people who contributed, so many, including the workers of Takwa. That is where the CPP idea to break away from the UGC started. The workers, the mine workers of Takwa. Then the railway workers of Sekendi Takradi, Texinokran, Popi Baini, Njekelejewu. These were the men who struggled. What about the students of Cape Coast? From Augustine and Pantapim, who were sacked because they solidarized with the Big Six, the so-called Big Six, who were sacked. And Nkrumah sympathized with them and founded Ghana National College and put those students there. What about them? What about those 6 people who were on the podium at the old program, who, when the independence of Ghana was being proclaimed? Have you seen any street named after them? You go to East Legon, Kokumba Street, Popo Street, Dandelion Street, some strange plants. When you had people standing there, anywhere back, but you vote. And, well, that's democracy. You vote, and then the vote will not.
Well, Chairman of the Convention People's Party, Professor Edmund Dele, who also addressed the gathering, stated that the independence struggle of Ghana was without direction until the arrival of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah.
The CPP considers as unfortunate recent attempts by reactionary forces to once again attempt to rewrite the history of Ghana.
Chairman, tell them all.
And water down the contribution of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah to the emancipation of the black man as well as Ghana's independence. Osagyefo is the foundation stone of Ghana and a leading pacemaker for the emancipation of Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, the independence struggle was without form and substance until the appointment of Osagyefo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah as the General Secretary of the United Gold Coast Convention, UGCC, on January 1948. After the formation of the UGCC on 4th August 1947, the appointment of Osagyefo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah changed the course of the struggle for independence. Nkrumah began an intensive emancipation tour throughout the country, and with his unique, impassioned rhetoric, soon had the entire country seething with Pan-African enthusiasm and demands for self-rule.
Director of Elections for the party, James Kwabena Bonfair, referred to the Legislative Assembly Hansard of 3rd August 1956 as a highlight in Nkrumah's role in Ghana's independence. He urged members of Parliament to be guided by the Hansard as they consider the bill to change Founders' Day to the 4th of August.
Finally, taking this challenge to the official realms by introducing a bill, as we are told in a release from the presidency, to Parliament. I only want to implore our members of Parliament that as they debate the Founders' Day and Kwame Nkrumah Memorial Day, or whatever they want to call it, we know that they are not bound by words of any previous Parliament, but they can be guided. And I just want to plead with them that as I make the effort to make 275 copies, I promise to do that, Mr. Chairman, of the debate on the floor of the Legislative Assembly on the 3rd day of August 1956, which I have a copy in my hands. They should read the proceedings, the quality of language, the sequence of events, the narration of our history that preceded the vote, that eventually established in law.
Let's stay a while longer on Founders' Day because opposition National Democratic Congress has vowed to revert Founders' Day to 21st September as it resists moves by government to obliterate gains made by Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. This follows a proposal by government to move Founders' Day to 4th August, as we've indicated. As it stands now, 21st September is the birthday of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, which was instituted by the NDC in 2012 as Founders' Day. It's been changed to Nkrumah Memorial Day via an executive instrument by President Nana Akufo-Addo. But the NDC says it will resist any moves by the president to impose his family on the country. Hannah Odame joined the party in a solidarity march and reports.
We are all aware of the proposal by the President of the Republic of Ghana for an ally to be sent to Parliament to change the Founders' Day from September 21 to August 4. The NDC says they will not allow this to happen. Here is Kwaku Anidaho. He's the Deputy General Secretary of the party.
On the 6th of March 1957, Osagyefo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah at the old polo grounds lowered the Union Jack of the British Crown Colony and hoisted the red, gold, green and the black star flag of the Republic of Ghana, and we struck our national anthem for the first time. God bless our homeland Ghana. Freedom! 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 60 years down the line, some surrogates of the imperialist forces
Joshua Alabi, this is not the priority now for a country.
We cannot decide to rewrite history. I think that as a nation, we should leave this behind us and think of how we can emancipate our people, help our people, get the best for them. That is where our focus should be. Our focus should not be thinking of rewriting history. I don't think that's our focus now. We move beyond that. We all did this history in our class 1, class 2, class 3, class 4. You go all over the world, international books all over, it is written. So why are we as a people trying to write history? I think that we should drop this. Is that we should drop this and move on. We should spend time on some of these things. Nkrumah is the founder of this country, known in Ghana, known in Africa, and this is not all over the world, right? So our focus now is when you win power, think of how you move another step. So another government comes and then moves to the next step.
Now, technical experts in drug policies and human rights on the African continent and Europe are advocating the continent reconsiders the current draconian drug regime that punishes problematic drug users. The experts from the widely acclaimed International Drug Policy Consortium question why the African continent continues to rely on legislation that pushes culprits in jail when what they really need is rehabilitation. The call was made on the sidelines of the expert workshop that seeks to put together a model law for the West African sub-region here in Accra.
It's a complicated message to get across, and to get across to people that this isn't about being soft on drugs. This isn't about giving up. It's about being more effective and actually trying to help people. But it's difficult. It's difficult to tell people that the way that we've been doing things for 50 years is wrong.
How has the political establishment received this message from your outfit?
I mean, it's a very good question, and it very much depends on the individual. We have some, even within the commission itself, senior political figures who are very supportive of this message and fully understand and fully agree. You have many other politicians who they agree on a one-to-one basis. They understand the concerns, they understand the point, but they're so concerned about public opinion in the elections. And I'm not just talking Ghana, I'm talking all around the world. So concerned about public opinion. And that's why, for example, the media and all of the way that we think about drugs has to change. And then when politicians feel that it's safer to have this honest conversation, then you'll find that change can happen much quicker.
I don't know any country that can boast of having a robust treatment system.
Senegal is doing well, you would say?
Well, Senegal is doing well in one regard. Senegal is doing well in terms of harm reduction. It's the only country in the sub-region that has methadone, that has needle and syringe programs for people who are addicted to opioids.
Why is that difficult for other countries in the sub-region to emulate?
It's a good question. It's a good question because some other parts of the continent, East Africa is doing quite well. Tanzania has harm reduction programs. Kenya does. And now Uganda is going to begin some programs also. West Africa, only one country out of so many countries in the region, about 15 countries. I don't know, why is it? It may be our attitudes towards drug use are different. It is probably also that the use of opioid analgesics or opiates like heroin, it's very low usage. And probably we also don't understand what may be happening because the response in a place like Tanzania was due to the association between injecting drug use and HIV. And we have injecting drug use, obviously, in West Africa, in all the countries, but probably it's not clear to many people that this may be helping to drive the HIV epidemic, and not only HIV, but also hepatitis B and C.
What we really need to do is use evidence to show people that cannabis is less harmful than, say, tobacco or alcohol. And at the minute, cannabis is really the purvey of the criminal market. And so we have no control over it. So if children want to get their hands on it, all they need is some money to pay for it. And actually, if we change the law and we end criminal sanctions so that people feel that they can get support if they need it, and then explore whether we should regulate cannabis and whether we should put in age controls and product controls in order to protect people from the really harmful type of substances that are out there.
If the person goes to jail and there's no treatment, he comes back with the same addiction problems. So he goes back and then he comes in. So in that sense, I think there should be a review or a rethinking of the law.
So you mentioned that we should put these individuals through rehabilitation, but some have argued that we do not have these centers readily available to take care of their needs, if you like.
Yes, I agree. We don't have, and we may not have all the facilities. But what I know is that the moment you have that policy or that process, you set it, the process itself generates the rehab.
You are with the sub-regional body, if I'm right, yes. ECOWAS. What is ECOWAS looking at as far as policy on drugs are concerned?
Yes, that's a very good question.
In the sub-region.
Yes, we have an action plan which is very comprehensive, and it takes care of all these reforms, legal reforms, rehabilitation, prevention, and even what we call the supply reduction, that is repression, arrest, and putting in jail, prosecution, and all that, and training, capacity building. So in this action plan, it has been identified that we have laws in the region that are not up to date. Some of them came as far back as 1974. And we are in 2017.
People describing the laws as archaic.
Yeah, I will not argue with them. Because 74, when we didn't have internet, and now people are selling drugs on the internet.
Now, she went into labor and gave birth like any other woman. But after the birth of her third child, Mary Nyako's husband, Emmanuel Kingsford Hagan, stands to lose both his wife and their 9-month-old baby. The 35-year-old woman has developed a brain tumor and is unable to recognize her own child, while fluids have built up in the head of the baby, a medical condition known as hydrocephalus. Richard Kojonyako traveled to Amisano, a community near Cape Coast, to find out more about the story.
The predicament of Mary Nyako started after she gave birth to her third child. The child was diagnosed of hydrocephalus, a health condition that occurs when fluid builds up in the skull and causes the brain to swell.
She gave birth to our last baby on December 19th last year. Then from that on, she was behaving somehow abnormally, but we thought it was after birth. So about 5 months ago, it became serious. She fell sick, and then because of that, she couldn't take care of the baby. So we first took the baby to hospital, and then we saw that the baby was seriously sick. So after treating the baby at the Cape Coast Regional Hospital, they directed us to intubate him because it means the head was swollen, and they thought that there was water inside.
Mary's husband, Emmanuel Kingsford Hagan, a poor farmer who takes very active part in the activities of the Catholic Church here at Emisano, has been supported heavily by the church. The church has made countless contributions to the family in their bid to save the child. Reverend Father Patrick is a Catholic priest in charge of the church. He is almost exhausted the church's fund. The church's account is depleted as a result.
We need somebody who can care for the baby, since the mother cannot care for the baby. And all it's about, all this involves money. You have to pay the person and all that. So far, we have spent over 20,000 Ghana cedis on the baby.
Just as the baby was recovering from the health condition as a result of the support received from Father Patrick and the Catholic Church at Emisano, the mother's health condition began to deteriorate. Doctors at the Kolebu Teaching Hospital said the mother had developed a brain tumor, a condition that makes her unable to recognize her own children. Her sight is failing and she can hardly walk as well. Her husband is devastated.
So they did two times operation on the head of the baby, and we stayed at the Kolebu for more than 2 months. So I was there taking care of the baby with a certain woman. Then because I was there, her problem also became serious. So when the baby was a little bit okay, and I came back, I saw that she has lost sense of control, like answering questions properly wasn't there, and she couldn't see, as you can see from here. And then controlling the body is also a problem.
For now, she cannot walk without any support. She is carried from her room with the support of her husband and some relatives. She can barely utter a word. For now, her condition deteriorates by the minute, and the husband fears if no support comes, he might lose both mother and the child.
Because we spent a lot of, more than 20,000 on the baby. In fact, there's no money to use for the operation. So we are soliciting for the public to help us. Other than that, within a short time, we don't think she will be here again.
Reporting for JoyNews, Richard Kwejonyako, Cape Coast.
And a sad story there. Well, a 29-year-old man, Seth Mensah, is currently in the grips of Asinfosu police for allegedly murdering his coconut business partner, Yao Edujima. According to the Asinfosu Divisional Police Commander, Chief Superintendent Henry Bacho, the suspect allegedly hit the deceased with fufu-pounding pistol on the head. The victim was rushed to the St. Francis Hospital in Asinfosu, where he was pronounced dead on arrival. He said although the police is still investigating the matter, the misunderstanding between the two is said to have started during the sharing of proceeds from their coconut business.
This morning at about 9:40, police received a message that two young men, namely Seth Mensah and one Yao Edujima, they were fighting, and in the process, Edujima used a pistol on Yao Mensah. That is what we used to pound fufu. We hit him and he fell down unconscious and was rushed to St. Francis Xavier Hospital, where he was admitted for treatment. But unfortunately, the doctors couldn't save his life, so he is dead. Body has been deposited at St. Francis Xavier morgue. While suspect is in police custody, we are here to do further investigations. And I learned the fight was due to some unspecified amount of money that they were to share. What I would say is that they should gather courage and patience, that control themselves, whatever it is. They should try, whatever provocation that comes their way, they should try to control themselves. Be patient and report to the elders for them to be solved. This money issue that came, if they had reported to an elder, you would have been able to solve it for them, rather than getting in touch of each other and finally one killing the other. It's not a good thing. As you are aware, today is holiday. I should have been resting, but because of this, I'm in office. It has come to worry me, and it is not me alone; it's worrying the state as well. They should stop it. If you have a problem with somebody, go through the law. That's why we have the courts, we have the elders, we have the police station, we have the chief palaces.